Hello and welcome everyone to our stability and stretch class. I am your instructor, Quinn. We will be going over our balance and core strengthening exercises today, getting some good stability control through the body, as well as working through some mobility and getting some different movements in that will help open up certain areas of the body. So starting off, we're going to have our warm-up going into a cat-cow, getting nice mobility and traction through the back and the spine, as well as going into a quad rock where we will be working into our hips and our thighs. And then we're going to go into some shoulder retraction where we're going to be working through the mobility of our shoulder joint. From there, we're going to go into two different circuits through our workout. One's going to be a rotating lunge to a hamstring sweep, deep squat with a balance and reach. So getting a little bit of some strength work as well as stability control and some stretching in that circuit as well. Then we're going to go into an upper body circuit, starting with our beast pose, which is a new one. It can be a little bit tricky, so I'll talk you guys through that. We're going to go into a plank after that, so get some good core and shoulder work there. And then we're going to go into a child pose rock, getting into some mobility and stretching through the shoulder and lower back. And then we're going to go into some shoulder cars, which is going to deal with some mobilization and some activity through the shoulder muscle as well. Next up, we're going to go into our leg raises, finish off with a little bit of an ab blaster, getting everything kind of working on the same plane again. And then we're going to get into a seated split forward fold, and then go into a hurdler stretch. Okay, so without further ado, let's go into our cat-cow here. So getting down to the ground, we're going to get our hands directly below the shoulder, knees below the hips. We're going to drop the belly button down to the spine, curling out and relaxing back up as we pull the spine up towards the ceiling, sucking that belly button to stomach and relaxing back down, curling out, tilting our head up, moving back and forth between both movements here, up and down. Tucking those hips underneath, getting nice mobility through the spine and the hips here. All right, moving forward, we're going to get into our quad rocks. So bringing one foot forward here, we're going to sit back into our hips, stretching out the hamstring and the quad on the top of that folded hip, coming forward into a lunge and stretching through the hip flexors and our adductor muscles right inside the hip there. So just rocking back and forth between these two positions. Hey, Sue, thanks for hopping in. We're just getting through the warm-up here. Go ahead and start with those quad rocks I was doing. Moving back and forth between our lunge position, stretching out through the hips, and then rocking back into the hamstrings and the quads. Getting nice little simple motion back and forth. Driving that knee out past the toe. Good, go ahead and switch sides. Pushing that knee out over the second toe, stretching out the hips, rocking back, sitting into our hamstrings and our quads. Moving back and forth, getting into those hips, opening up the hips and the knees just a little bit. A few more on this side. And good. All right, very quickly, we're just going to go through a couple of shoulder retractions. So getting those shoulders nice and warmed up, working on that mobility there through the upper body. So hands together, fingers pointed out front. We're going to suck the belly button to spine, shoulders over hips, hips over ankles, and pulling our shoulders back, crushing the egg in the middle of our back, and relaxing forward, pushing back and forth between our forward and backward motion. Just moving those shoulders back and forth, trying to pull them low and away from the ears. Moving back and forth. Couple more. And good. All right, awesome. Now we're gonna get into our workout, that first little lower body exercise routine here, starting with our rotating lunge. So we're gonna get pretty close together here, and most of our weight is gonna be centered over this forward leg, right over the middle of the foot. As we lower down, we're gonna drive that knee out over the toe, rotating across the knee and standing back up. Nice and slow, lowering down, trying to get all that balance and control on our lowering down, twisting across and coming back up. Again, most of that weight on that forward foot, coming up and down. Couple more on this side. And relax. Switching sides, getting that other foot forward. Again, not too big of a step. Most of that weight over the middle of the front foot. Leaning forward, rotating down, and standing back up. Getting a nice even twist as we lower down. Trying to bring that opposite elbow to knee. And coming back up, whoa, losing my balance. Coming down and back up. Keeping that knee tracking over the middle of the toe as we hit a few more here. Last one. Good. All right, next up, we're gonna get into our deep squat. So we're gonna get our heels just outside of hip width with our toes pointed at about 45 degrees from the hips. So a little bit wide stance here. From here, we're just gonna drop the hips down, bringing the elbows inside of the knee and lowering our hips as we tilt the chest up, pressing those knees out wide, getting into a nice deep squat. Trying to get that good balance between our weight in the middle of both feet as we lower those hips down. Stretching and deepening, opening up those hips. Holding for just a little bit longer, really giving ourselves a second to stretch out here. Nice deep breath. And driving back up through the heels, coming back up to standing and finishing out the exercise. Good. Next up, we have our balance and reach. So working on these progressions, working on this single leg stability as we go through our class. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But we're gonna bring our front foot forward, or one foot forward, and point our toes up, bring the heel up off the ground. From there, opposite hand reaches forward and tries to touch the big toe. We're lowering our chest and our hands down to the toe. We're not picking the knee up and bringing our foot up towards us. If you can't get all the way to the toe, that's fine. Just reach as far as you can get while keeping that planted leg straight. Nice and easy, standing back up to tall. A couple more on this side. And relax. Switching sides. Getting that other foot planted down. We're going to point the toe up towards the ceiling, getting the heel off the ground. Opposite hand reaching forward, leaning forward as I keep that leg straight. and lowering down. Nice, even controlled pace as we lower down to the ground and come back up. Standing nice and tall, back up straight, trying to get that stability through the outside of the leg, inside of the foot, building that arch strength and control. A couple more. And relax. Good. Next up, we're going to go back into those rotating lunges. So keeping that narrow stance, our back foot is going to raise the heel up. Using our toes like a kickstand, we're going to load most of that weight onto the forward foot, keeping it above the middle of the foot, lowering down, rotating across, and coming back up. Like a disc thrower, if you can imagine their form here. I guess it would be the other way, but they're loading up here and twisting. Bringing that opposite elbow to knee. Focusing on lowering that weight down with good control and exploding back up. Switch sides, getting our other foot forward, using that back toe as a kickstand. We're going to lower our weight down, twisting up and exploding up. Working on that rotational strength and stability. Nice and controlled, really keeping that weight over the midpoint of the foot. Lowering down, getting that elbow to knee. As we finish out a few more here. Couple more. And relax. Good. Next up, we have our, I can't remember. Did we do this? I believe it is our deep squat. So we're going to get our feet a little bit wide here. Toes pointed out to the side. Heels about just a little bit wider than hip. And we're going to lower our hips down to the ground, getting into our deep squat, elbows inside the knees, pressing out, lowering those hips down, getting a deep stretch through the inside of the hip. Really trying to open things up. Feeling that weight through the middle of the foot, really controlling that weight, trying to be nice and even as we sit down into the stretch. Couple more seconds, hold it. And driving up through the heel, bringing the hips up, coming back up to standing. Good. Next up, we have our balance and reach. So planting one leg down, straightening out the leg, heels down, toes pointed up, heels come off the floor, and we're reaching down towards the toe, trying to get that tap, coming straight back up to standing. Moving back and forth. Keeping that heel up off the ground, trying to lower the chest down, not trying to bend either knee, but bring that hand down as we swing the hips back to lower our chest and our arm down. And switching sides, getting to the other foot, bringing that toe up, heel off the ground, and reaching down. Standing back up tall. Moving back and forth, getting back to that standing position, feeling the stability through the inside of the foot, out to the outside of the leg. Couple more here. Oh, sorry to lose your balance. Couple more. And done. Good. All right, now we're going to get into the upper body a little bit. Might have to speed things through as we're running a little slow here. Still figuring out the timing of these stability days, but it's all good. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our beast pose. So we're going to curl our toes underneath our feet. So we don't have our feet flat on the floor. We don't have the top of the feet flat on the floor. But we're going to curl our toes underneath. The reason we're doing that is because we're going to pop up onto our hands and our toes while we're keeping our knees bent. So I'm in this quadruped position with my toes curled under my feet. My heels or my hands are underneath my shoulder. And I'm going to pop my knees just slightly up off the ground, just about no more than 5 inches off the ground. And we're going to hold this pose for about 20 seconds. We're going to drop in a few here and then do it again. Getting nice stability through the shoulders, all the way down through the toes, connecting everything all at once. And lowering down, dropping those knees back down, readjusting, and sucking belly button to spine as we pick those knees up, holding, popping up onto the toes and the hands, keeping that back flat, sucking belly button to spine. Nice deep breaths. Couple more seconds. And relax. Good. Very nice. Next up, we're going to head into our plank. So, normal plank, going to get our forearms down to the ground. Getting our toes underneath the feet once again. Extending the feet out and bringing those knees up. Holding our plank. We're going to go for 45 seconds here. So really lock it in. Get those shoulders level with the hips, hips level with the shoulders, sucking belly button to spine, getting the torso nice and tight. Holding our plank, almost there, keep going. Nice deep breaths, really trying to press the ground away from the shoulders and the body. Couple more seconds, just barely there. And relax. Very good. Next up, we're going to do some child pose rocks. So getting our hands out in front of the shoulder here, spread a little bit wide. We're going to get our knees together, feet together, knees slightly spread. Sorry, misspoke. And we're going to rock back into child's pose, drop down into child's, and rock back forward. Coming back down, getting some good hip and shoulder movement working together here. Rocking back and forth. A few more. And relaxing out. Good. Next up, we're going to finish this circuit out with some shoulder cars. So getting onto our hands and knees, hands directly below the shoulders. We're going to extend one hand forward, thumb comes up towards the ceiling. As we come up by the ear, the shoulder rotates out and around, hand waves to the outside, down to the hip, and back down to its starting position. Coming back, reaching back towards the hip, coming up, rotating around as we pass the hip, and coming back down. Switching sides, bringing that opposite hand up, rotating out and around as we come up past the shoulder, getting down towards the hip, rotating that hand inside again, and swinging back from the starting position, rotating that hand out, and coming back down. Good. We're going to go back into that beast pose again here. So getting our toes curled underneath the feet, hands directly beneath the shoulder. We're going to pop the knees up into our beast pose. Getting that back nice and flat, tummy tucked up to spine, and holding for 20 seconds here. Almost there. And dropping down, giving a bit of rest, and popping back up. Keeping those knees just about a few inches off the ground. Holding. And almost there, actually. A few more seconds. Keep going. Keep it and drop. Very good. All right, coming down onto our plank, we're getting our forearms down to the ground, extending the feet back, and bringing the hips up, level with the shoulders, sucking the belly button to spine, pressing the ground away through the shoulders, driving those hips up. Sorry, I often forget what I'm saying as I'm trying to say things. Few more seconds, keep it going. Almost there. And rest. Very good. Going into those child pose rocks, cooling things down. Getting our hands out in front, a little bit wide. And sitting back into the heels. Rocking, stretching out the shoulders. Coming forward and dropping the hips. Coming back into our child's. Stretching the shoulders out in the lower back. Coming down, sucking the belly button to spine. Curving out. Rocking back and forth. Few more. And relax. Very good. Last thing we got here is our shoulder cars. So hands directly beneath the shoulder. We're going to reach one hand out forward, stretching up, rotating that hand around, and coming back down. Reaching back towards the hip, opening up that hand, rotating around, and back to start. Switching hands. Bringing our hand up, we're going to rotate the hand out towards the outside, dropping it down towards the hip as it flips over again, and coming back to start, rotating back the other direction, flipping that hand around as we pass the hip, keeping those shoulders pointed down, rotating that hand back down to the ground. Very good. Awesome. We are through the major work of our workout here. We're going to finish off with a couple of leg raises and a few stretches. So laying flat on our back, we're going to get our hands directly below our hips, keeping our lower back pulled down into the ground, tummy tucked to spine, and hips just slightly rotated forward. We're going to sweep the feet up towards the ceiling and lowering back down to the ground. Feeling that slight tap as we bring the heels down and coming straight back up. Quick little tap, not dropping the feet onto the floor, but just gently tapping down and coming back up. Couple more, keep it up, just getting some good core activation at the end here. Couple more. And done. Very good. We're gonna do a little bit of a fancy stretch here as we have run out of time for both of them, but it's a great one, I promise. So we're gonna lie on our side, popping up onto the side of our hip. We're gonna extend one arm out forward in front. Our top knee is gonna become bent and drop down to the ground. So my top leg is bending at the knee and dropping the knee down to the ground. With my hand that's out in front, I'm going to place it on top of the knee, holding it down to the ground. My other arm is going to extend out forward, and I'm bringing it up towards the ceiling and dropping it back behind, getting a nice lumbar twist through the lower spine, really trying to keep that knee down on the ground, and then drop the opposite shoulder. I guess it's the same side shoulder actually, but dropping that shoulder, rotating back, trying to get it to touch the ground there. Opening up the chest, the hips, and the lower back. Turning that hand and looking at turning your head and looking at your hand that's reaching out towards that opposite side. Bringing the hand back up very slowly and dropping it back down to the side. Now we're going to switch, flip over onto the other side, bringing that knee, or extending the legs out and then bringing the knee up, bending at the knee, getting that hand folded down to keep the knee down on the ground. Other arm comes out in front, and we're rotating up and over, using our eyes to follow our fingertips, stretching through the lower back, twisting, opening up the shoulder. And it's completely normal to feel more tight on one side than the other. It happens all the time. Usually as you go through one stretch, twisting in a direction, it opens up all of the lower back. So your second time going through, you'll feel a better opening, maybe a little bit more loose. Nothing to be concerned about. And rotating back up, folding over onto our back, hugging the knee to chest, getting a little stretch through the back, rocking back and forth, getting everything kind of on the same page after those big twists, and finishing out our workout for today. All right. Thank you so much for hopping in. I appreciate you guys checking in, coming to these classes. Please let me know if you have any feedback for me. Shoot me a Slack, send me an email. Quinn Gabler, you know where to reach me. And have a great weekend. Have a great week. Hope to see you guys next time.